On the morning of his 1000th day at the shelter, the three-legged pit bull mix did what he always did. He woke before the lights. The other dogs were still curled in their blankets, paws twitching through dreams of open fields and warm kitchens. But Bruno had learned not to dream too long. Dreams made waking up harder. He lifted his head from the folded towel that smelled like bleach and old rain. His front left leg was missing from the shoulder, taken years ago after a car hit him and nobody came looking. He could still remember the road, the cold, the blur of headlights, the hands that finally lifted him. Since then, the shelter had been his whole world. Kennel 12, a silver water bowl, a rubber toy shaped like a tire, a square of sunlight that appeared on the floor every afternoon and disappeared before dinner. The workers loved him. They called him Sweet Boy, Brave Boy, Miracle Boy. They scratched the spot under his chin that made his back foot thump against the concrete. They posted his picture online again and again. Bruno is still waiting. Bruno loves people. Bruno would do best as the only pet. Bruno has been with us 900 days, then 950, then 999. But love from behind bars was still love with a lock on it. That morning, the shelter was busier than usual. Balloons bobbed near the front desk. A paper banner hung crookedly across the lobby. Adoption Day. Volunteers carried clipboards. Families came in smelling like coffee, perfume, and hope. Children pressed their faces to kennel doors. Dogs barked, spun, wagged, begged. Bruno stood carefully on his three legs and pushed his broad head against the chain-link gate. A little girl stopped in front of him. "Mommy, this one only has 3 legs." Her mother smiled sadly. "He's sweet, honey. But we need a dog who can keep up." Bruno wagged anyway. He had learned to wag for everyone. By noon, 3 puppies had gone home. Then a beagle. Then a shaggy senior dog with cloudy eyes who had only been there 12 days. Bruno watched each family leave with a leash in hand and a dog looking back like they couldn't believe the world had opened. Each time, the gate to Kennel 12 stayed closed. In the late afternoon, when the balloons had begun to sag and the volunteers' smiles had grown tired, an old man walked through the front door. He was thin, with a gray cardigan hanging loose from his shoulders and a brown leash wrapped around one trembling hand. At the other end of the leash stood a small white terrier with a red collar and eyes full of confusion. The man didn't look around like the adopters did. He looked at the floor. A shelter worker named Maya stepped forward gently. "Can I help you, sir?" The old man swallowed. "I called this morning." Maya's face changed, softened. "You're Mr. Ellis." He nodded. The terrier pressed against his shoe. Mr. Ellis bent slowly and touched the dog's head. His fingers shook as they moved through the wiry fur. "This is Daisy," he said. "She's 12, likes toast crusts, sleeps on the left side of the bed, afraid of thunder, but only if I'm not touching her." Maya lowered her clipboard. Mr. Ellis tried to smile and failed. "They're moving me into hospice care on Monday," the place said. "They said pets aren't allowed." His voice cracked on the last word. "My daughter lives across the country. She has 3 kids and a landlord who won't budge. I tried everyone." Daisy looked up at him, tail wagging once, trusting him completely. "I promised my wife I'd take care of her," Mr. Ellis whispered. "After Ruth passed, Daisy was all I had left." For a moment, the shelter seemed to quiet around him. Then Bruno barked. Not loud, not demanding, just one soft sound from Kennel 12. Mr. Ellis turned. Bruno stood with his chest against the gate, ears lifted, eyes steady. His body was scarred and uneven, but his tail moved slowly, hopefully, as if he understood the shape of grief when it walked into a room. The old man stared at him. "What happened to that one?" he asked. Maya glanced toward Bruno. "Car accident, years ago. He's been here a long time." "How long?" Maya hesitated. "Today is his 1000th day." The old man's mouth opened slightly. Bruno pressed his nose through the fence. Mr. Ellis walked toward him, Daisy padding beside him. He stopped at the kennel door and lowered himself carefully onto the bench outside it. Bruno sat too. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Then Mr. Ellis leaned forward until his forehead nearly touched the gate. "Me too, buddy," he whispered. "Left behind." Bruno didn't bark this time. He lifted his paw, the one he still had, and rested it against the metal. Mr. Ellis began to cry. Not the kind of crying people try to hide. The kind that comes from a place too tired to pretend anymore. Maya stepped away to give him privacy, but she didn't go far. She watched as Daisy sniffed Bruno through the gate. Bruno, who usually got nervous around other dogs, stayed still and gentle. After a while, Mr. Ellis wiped his face with the sleeve of his cardigan. "I came here to leave one dog," he said quietly. "Seems cruel to leave two." Maya turned back. "Sir?" He looked at Bruno again. "How much paperwork to take him home?" Maya blinked. "Mr. Ellis, you said you're moving into hospice on Monday." "I know. And you're surrendering Daisy because pets aren't allowed." "I know that too." His hand slid through the gate, and Bruno pressed his cheek into it. "I have 3 months, maybe less." Doctor was kind enough to be blunt. He gave a small, sad smile. "But I'm not in the hospice house yet. I have my home until Monday. After that, my neighbor has agreed to take Daisy if the shelter can't find placement. Maybe she'll take Bruno too. Maybe my daughter will help, maybe not." He looked at Maya, and his voice grew steadier. "But that dog has given this place 1,000 days. I can give him 3. Maya's eyes filled. "Are you sure?" Mr. Ellis nodded. "I don't want to spend my last months practicing goodbye in an empty house." By evening, Bruno left Kennel 12 for the last time. The shelter workers lined the hallway. Some clapped, some cried. Maya clipped a blue leash to Bruno's collar and whispered, "Go home, brave boy." Bruno walked slowly at first, unsure of the open door, the parking lot, the sky stretching huge and orange above him. Mr. Ellis opened the back door of his old sedan. Daisy hopped in first. Bruno looked up, uncertain. "I know," Mr. Ellis said. "Getting in is hard." The old man braced one hand on the car, bent with a groan, and helped Bruno climb. It was clumsy. It took time. But when Bruno finally settled beside Daisy on the blanket-covered seat, he looked out the window like he was seeing the world for the first time. Mr. Ellis laughed through tears. "There you are," he said. "There's the boy." Home was a small blue house with white shutters, a leaning mailbox, and 3 porch steps. Bruno stopped at the bottom. Mr. Ellis stopped beside him. "Well," he said, looking at the stairs, "I suppose we both have to learn." The first night, Bruno couldn't climb them. Mr. Ellis sat on the bottom step with Daisy in his lap and Bruno's head against his knee. The air smelled like cut grass and rain. "No rush," he said. "We'll try tomorrow." And they did, every morning. Before Mr. Ellis's medicine made him sleepy, they practiced. 1 step, rest. Another step, rest. Sometimes Bruno slipped. Sometimes Mr. Ellis had to sit down halfway, breathing hard. Daisy waited at the top, wagging like a tiny coach. "Again," Mr. Ellis would say. Bruno would look at him, then try. By the 9th day, Bruno climbed all 3 porch steps by himself. Mr. Ellis cheered so loudly the neighbor came running, thinking something was wrong, something was right. Inside the house, Bruno learned the sounds of Mr. Ellis's days, the rattle of pill bottles, the whistle of the kettle, the creak of the recliner, the soft, tired sigh that meant pain had arrived. When Mr. Ellis hurt, Bruno came close. He learned to balance his body carefully against the man's chair, offering warmth without knocking him over. He learned to move slowly beside the walker. He learned that if Mr. Ellis dropped something, barking brought the neighbor. And when the hospice nurse began visiting the house instead of moving him away, she found Bruno lying at Mr. Ellis's feet like a promise. "Looks like you found yourself a caregiver," she said. Mr. Ellis smiled and rested his hand on Bruno's head. "No," he whispered. "We found each other." Spring softened into summer. Mr. Ellis grew thinner. Bruno grew stronger. They spent afternoons on the porch, watching Daisy chase bees she never caught. Sometimes Mr. Ellis talked about Ruth. Sometimes he talked about fear. Sometimes he said nothing at all. Bruno never needed words. On Mr. Ellis's final morning, sunlight filled the bedroom. Daisy was curled against his side. Bruno lay on the floor beside the bed, his chin resting on the old man's hand. Mr. Ellis opened his eyes once. "There's my brave boy," he breathed. Bruno's tail tapped softly, 3 times, one for the shelter, one for the stairs, one for the man who came to leave goodbye behind and found a reason to stay until the end. After the funeral, Mr. Ellis's daughter came to the blue house. She stood on the porch with red eyes while Bruno watched her from the doorway. Daisy leaned against his side. "My dad wrote instructions," she told the neighbor. "He said they stay together." So they did. Bruno and Daisy moved into her home 2 states away, where there were children who learned not to stare at missing legs, only to cheer for strong hearts. Years later, people still shared Bruno's shelter photo online, the one taken on his 1,000th day. But the shelter added a new caption beneath it. He waited 1,000 days for a home. Then he gave one man the courage to finish his journey with love.